evening and welcome to Brands Hatch, which will bring us to the halfway stage in the Radical Esports Cup here this season. It's season 2 of 2026 and another night of Radicals racing for us to enjoy. I say round 6 bring us to the halfway stage, and it would be a chance for Andre Castro to go 4 in a row. He's won 4 races already this season, including the last 3. Unfortunately, he is not here tonight to defend those race victories, but plenty of the big names are, 14 of them in this split for us to enjoy. Myself, Ian O'Leary, J.R. Gregory taking you through the action tonight here on Racepot TV and on the iRacing YouTube channels as well as always. And the Twitch channels and all sorts as well. Good to be alongside you, J.R. again. I mean, it's twisty and a difficult racetrack, Brands Hatch. Andre Castro not here, but plenty of the familiar names are.
Yeah, I love being here at Brands Hatch. This circuit, only about 2 hours drive from the Radical Car Company headquarters, and you have to imagine some test sessions going on out here at Brands Hatch, and the result is this SR10 very well adapted to this course. Great racing here, similar to Olton Park. It's hilly, it's challenging, and requires a lot out of these drivers, and really looking forward to this race at Brands, as I am every time we come here.
Yeah, indeed. As I say, bring it to the halfway stage in the season, and what's quite a technical part of the season as far as the racetracks are concerned, with the VIR last week, Hungaroring and Laguna Seca in the next 2 weeks, indeed. The official iRacing standings has Andre Castro just in behind Havard Gullikson, who is 39 points ahead, rather. Heinz Braun not that far away either, only 76 back. And in fact, the top 6 all pretty close. George Gonzaga, James Barry and Sebastian Lip can very much be counted as a part of that. Ketil Larson, Peter Eveny, Robert Woodward and Ole Gullikson round out the top 10 so far. In the Racepot TV standings, those 4 wins have got Andre Castro to 100 points already, and he's leading, no surprise. Havard Gullikson has got a chance to close in this week. He finished 5th last week. Sebastian Lip is in 3rd place in the standings. James Barry and Heinz Braun then running off the top 5. Ketil Larson is next. George Gonzaga was back to the top 5 for the first time since round 1 last week. He is next ahead of Gao Valero, who's still only got the 1 race win to his name. Peter Eveny and Paki Caruso, who's a new name on the board. With that podium he got at VIR last week, he slipped straight into 10th. Because it is still pretty early in the season. 33 degrees Celsius on the racetrack, quite warm considering the rest of the season that we've had, but this is one of only 4 races this season that are going to be held towards the middle of the day. We've already had one at Mugello and Spa, and we've got to wait until round 12 at Adelaide for the next one, but warmer track temperatures don't normally mean a whole lot here, JR. I mean, if you spin, maybe it might be more difficult to get the tyre temperatures back under control, but that might have been true anyway. Over this short of a distance, the weather conditions really don't matter. It's the same every time, pretty much, in the Radical Esports Cup, and it means that these guys can get very familiar in the week before this broadcast is split on a Friday night.
Yeah, too right, and as we ride on board right now with Ole Gullikson heading up the hill and into the beautiful British countryside out here. You know, this track stands out to me, Ewan, as I touched on before. It's not the kind of facility that would be built today. They actually started racing bicycles here in the dirt 100 years ago, and despite not having the advantages of computer-aided design and all these brilliant track designers, the design around here at Brands Hatch absolutely outstanding. And here's just one example right here coming onto the pit straight. You see the car lightening up over a crest right where you're trying to put the power down. That happens a number of times on every lap around here. Very, very challenging course, requires a lot of precision, and it also requires a very, very clear understanding of the track limits. A lot of racing here outside the white lines.
Yeah, indeed. They're going to have to be very, very careful throughout the day to survive even here tonight. It will be 19 laps, and this will be the grid. Peter Eveny on the pole in front of Jake Williams, who we saw make a dramatic conclusion into this series at Spa a couple of weeks ago. Havard Gullikson and James Barry share row 2 with Ryan Odo. Got to see him here on a Friday night in front of Heinz Braun. Dennis Kyriakopoulos and Ketil Larson on row 4 in front of Ole Henrik Gullikson and George Gonzaga, who seems to qualify about 10th every week. Andreas Frederick is 11th ahead of Melvin Brandt, who's in 12th. Then you've got Robert Woodward and Paki Caruso. Not many unfamiliar names, to be honest, JL, but super glad to see Jake Williams back again. See if he can really compete for the win again like he did at Spa a fortnight ago.
Yeah, interesting to see what Williams can do. He definitely showed up to party at Spa. We thought initially he might have been a Spa specialist, but he definitely showed he had the guts and the car control to make something happen in these radicals. And here he is almost defending his home turf here in the UK. Very interested to see what he can do here tonight.
It will be. As the lights come on, we are underway from Brands Hatch in the Radical Esports Cup, and Williams hasn't got off to a good start this time. Peter Eveny has, and so has Havok Gullikson, who slipped straight through on the inside there. Williams back to third, and then it looks like Ryan Odo's got to fourth. James Barry going backwards, it seems, on the start here, and he's side by side with Heinz Braun, who gets good purchase on the outside of him, coming in towards turn 2, but he will slip into line eventually, as do the top 7 or 8, actually. Oh, and then behind it gets really messy. At least 4 or 5 have gone into a spin, coming around turn 3 for the first time. That is messy. On the opening lap, the top guys get away cleanly, but behind 7th place Dinis Kyriakopoulos, it is carnage.
Yeah, and don't want to see that here. And in this top split, Ewan, I mean, we see 5 or 6K splits, a very short race here. People want to pounce here early when the cars, when their competitors are close to them. We'll see a replay right now, and I think we're going to see someone washing out maybe with or without help. Oh, and that's one of the IGL coatings taking Friedrich for a ride there into the grass. But as I was saying, if you want to succeed here in this high split, you got to be aggressive early, and that can involve rolling the dice and sometimes losing. We saw it right there, and look at Havok Gullikson, who is loving. He's already counting his points against Castro right now in Castro's absence.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, that's wide from Jake Williams through turn 1. That's a gift to Ryan Odo, who slipped through on the inside line. And, well, can he... Oh, Williams back down the inside at turn 2. And he retakes that 3rd place. Now, there's going to be a real gap to the top 2 now. As Odo slips back down the inside and shoves him off the road. Well, Jake Williams has got a right to feel a bit aggrieved at that one. He races back onto the racetrack, and James Barry slips straight through. Heinz Braun as well. I'm not sure whether Odo was a little bit disappointed, or annoyed rather, that he got dived at turn 2 in the way that he did, or what he was angry with there, but he didn't give any room to Jake Williams there through that left-hander.
Yeah, Williams, the newcomer in this very tight Radical community. I'm not going to call them exclusive, but these drivers practice together all week. They have a league that we also cover here on RaceBot TV, and Williams has the pace and has the aggression, but we saw that aggression kind of result in a controversial ending at Spa, and that continuing here as Williams drops to P6. Had been running as high as 2nd, and keep an eye on him. Plenty of time left for him to claw back, but oh my goodness, and there is some more kind of kerfuffleage there down in the Druids.
Yeah, that was another look at lap 1, sorry. That's why we've got a top 7 who are so far in front of the rest, because they all powered into one another through turn 3 there on the opening lap. It was pretty messy coming down here for the very first time, but there you are. They've all got clear again now. 16 seconds between the field, which isn't bad. If Eveny's got out to a lead of just over a second, then it's Havok Gullikson, then it's Ryan Odo, who does seem to be under a little bit of pressure. I don't think he's got any damage at the moment, which is holding him back. I just think he's maybe not quite as quick as James Barry, who, as we're getting up to race pace here, is showing himself to be very strong and really closing in for this 3rd place.
Yeah, the names at the top of this field. I love to see Ryan Odo with Havok Gullikson ahead and James Barry behind. These are some excellent, excellent drivers. We get the best Radical drivers here at our 2100 GMT top split broadcast, and you're seeing it right here. Gullikson, a past champion. Barry, multiple past champion as well. Heinz Braun, no slouch, and Odo, our U.S. champion, I believe, at least once, if not a couple of times. So some great competition out here today.
There always is, even if we're missing the big name of this season, Andre Castro. We've still got a number of the other big names, but in fact, as far as the standings for Friday nights are concerned, this is a good night for Havok Gullikson so far, trying to gain as many points as he can on Castro in his absence. be closing right in this scenario. Sebastian Lipp would have the chance to do so as well, but he isn't here either. So of the top 3 in our standings, the best 3 performing drivers from Friday nights this season, only Havik Gulliksen is here. But it's a great performance from Peter Eveny so far. Second place last week at VIR. Will be back-to-back podiums, and this time top step of the podium, if indeed he can continue on in the run of form that he's in. But on to lap 4, we are starting to single file out a little bit now, and this is more like what you see from Brands Hatch. The first few laps were very, very busy, but let's say this is more consistent with what you're likely to see at this circuit.
Yeah, too right. And as I alluded to earlier, Brands Hatch so dependent on consistency. And you know, these little Radical SR10s, kind of monsters, 450 horsepower, barely 1,000 pounds lighter than the popular Mazda MX-5 Cup race car. So it's the kind of car that you would think all that power would make up for small mistakes. But Brands Hatch turns these cars into momentum cars. You don't want to overslow through these corners. You need to know the track boundaries, as you see Odo there way off into the green, and it takes a lot of precision, a lot of consistency to reach the front of the grid. And right now, as he said, we're nose to tail as we see Gulliksen taking a peek down the inside there. My goodness, that's Ole Gulliksen in the back of the grid, but it definitely requires a massive amount of precision for success out here, and you got to be consistent for all 19 laps.
Yeah, that's Paki Caruso in front, who had his first top 10 finish with us on Fridays last week. Excuse me, at VIR. Back to Odo and Barry again, who are nose to tail in this run for third position at the moment. That's the movers and shakers so far. Odo's made a good start, but maybe now he's slightly ahead of where his race pace should have him. See how easy James Barry finds this as he tries to close now on the way towards the final turn. And try and get past Odo maybe on the run towards turn 1. We saw Gulliksen have Ole Gulliksen, that is, having a look on the way towards turn 1 because of the overspeed that he had. Well, here comes James Barry. He's not quite close enough this time, but this is what passes at Brands Hatch are like. You do have to work at these for lap after lap before you can finally make the move.
Yeah, and I've really found that it is about pressure, and Barry's job right now is going to be to never let Odo forget that he's right behind him, never let Odo forget that he has to hit every mark with absolute precision, because all it takes is just a little bit of extra speed, especially in an area like this as we head up Hawthorne Hill, a good place to stick it down the inside. We've seen some great battles on that entry to the Hawthorne's Bend, and that is the place that Barry is looking for, a slight pobble out of Odo just to force him off his line. So far, Odo doing a good job managing that pressure from behind, and also Ivani. Look at him managing that gap. 2 seconds now from Ivani back to Gulliksen.
Yeah, indeed. He is dominating this race, is Peter Eveny. Gunther Larsen was the one who made contact with Andreas Friedrich, by the way, on the opening lap there. We saw the incident down towards turn 3. Well, he's recovered decently, as Larsen. He's now on the back of Robert Woodward for 9th place. Speaking of Friedrich, by the way, he's just got past Melvin Brandt, who's had a couple of problems since the incident itself, and since he was thrown a bit further down the field anyway. Now he's probably had trouble. Jake Williams, meantime, is recovering places too. He's got free of Kyriakopoulos, and now he's gone for Heinz Braun, and he's got him in towards turn 1. Feels the need to defend in towards 2, but no, he's got that top 5, and Jake Williams clearly is very, very quick, but that battle with Odo has just put him so far down that it's going to be a struggle for him to get back on the podium, but not out of the question, given the way he just got past Heinz Braun.
Yeah, huge tip of the hat right there. Braun is absolutely a vigorous defender. Let me just leave it at that. And Williams making that one look easy. So he's got the pace, he's got the racecraft, and he's got plenty of time left. 13 laps remaining, and the gap ahead to his next target, James Barry, less than a second, as Barry arguably being held up by Odo. We'll take a look at that battle right now. That gap less than 0.2, and Barry has got to see Williams coming up behind, and is going to be faced with the decision soon whether or not to try to put Odo between himself and Williams.
This is Melvin Brandt's problem around the back part of the circuit. Last lap, goes for a big spin and just about avoids the wall through Dingledale corner. which is, well, a positive because there are no small accidents through there, as you've just seen. Rather impressive that he managed to avoid the wall completely, though. I wonder what James Barry's going to be thinking here, because Jake Williams is catching up to the both of them at a rapid rate of knots now. Clearly, he's not finding this overtake on Ryan Odo very easily, but he's got to make it sooner rather than later, hasn't he? Because he's going to get caught in a jam, effectively, between these two if he's not careful.
Yeah, he really does. The pressure on right now, both Odo and Barry, and I really like this inside move into Hawthorne Hill. You don't normally see it in sports cars, but these radicals get a good draft up the Hawthorne Hill. We've seen some contested entries right here on a few of these races, and that is where my money is, where Barry is going to stick his nose in. And Odo definitely the cork in the bottle right now. Barry's fastest lap about 10th and a half, I'll say, quicker than Odo, and you can see it right there. Barry applying pressure as Ivani enjoying the fights behind and driving off. Gullickson too has a pretty good gap back to Odo of over a second. So Barry needs to make something happen here pretty soon, or he's going to have a couple problems on his hands.
Yeah, indeed. I think it's going to have to be, well, I was going to say towards turn 2 this time, or Jake Williams is going to be too close next time, but Barry's not close enough himself this time. That was a little bit wide from Odo. Picks up a little bit of gravel as we go back to the battle for 9th. Larson and Woodward. It's George Gonzaga not far in front of them as well, but he can just about be counted as free from those two at the moment. It's been good racing so far, I've got to say, from Brands Hatch. Sometimes it can be difficult round here, but so far this has been pretty tight and pretty entertaining racing as we come to the halfway mark of this Radical Esports Cup race.
Yeah, and really tip of the hat to Odo to handle that pressure from behind from James Barry. As I said, this is a pretty tight group. These folks all well familiar with each other. James Barry bearing that number 1. I think he's the highest ranked driver on the grid right now and multiple champion of the Radical Esports Cup and the Radical European Championship. So Odo definitely with his hands full, but for a younger driver, still in his teens, if I'm not mistaken, Odo very, very frosty, very, very consistent, and really has done a great job of growing into this car.
Yeah, he is indeed still a teenager, still a very young lad, is Ryan Odo, I believe, anyway. So only going to get quicker, which is a scary prospect for the rest of them. Here comes Woodward on the way towards turn 1, and he's going to back out early. George Gonzaga defends towards turn 1, but Woodward's going to have another go towards 2, and Gonzaga pulls it across just in time. Larson will feel he's quicker than both of them, and qualifying would bear that out as true. Well, I suppose. Well, yeah, it would, I suppose. 8th place for Larson, 10th for Gonzaga. Woodward was way down in 13th on the back row, but he stayed out of trouble and he got the positions. Here comes James Barry. He has waited a bit longer than I thought he was going to be able to afford to, actually, but he's now attacking Ryan Odo for 3rd. No way through, though, this part of the circuit. So difficult to overtake on.
Yeah, and Odo saw that move that I've been looking for up into Hawthorne's, covered the inside. Barry tried the outside there. Game, but very, very tough to do. You got to have your nose inside there. Odo knowing that, and Odo clinging to 3rd place right now. And look at Jake Williams. Ewan, he's down to 3/10, less than 4/10 anyway, behind Barry. So the pressure on Barry increasing here. We saw him show his nose on that lap, and Barry may be running out of patience here sooner rather than later, as we saw Odo sticking up some dirt. And will we see him move into Druids? Barry sticks it through. Will Williams follow?
Well, Barry just about got himself to the inside there just in time. Oh, and Odo's off. At the very same corner, he had contact with Jake Williams that sent the Welshman off the road. Ryan Odo this time takes a trip through the grass at turn 3, and he drops to 7th place this time, even worse than it was for Jake Williams, who is the beneficiary for all of this. He gets past Ryan Odo for free, and James Barry's not got any momentum to defend with here on the run down the hill. Fast right-hander coming up round the outside from Jake Williams, but he's got to do it again and again because it continues to turn to the right. He's still there, but Barry's still got a nose in. Oh, and finally James Barry has to concede. Jake Williams gets it done through Dingledale. He's into 3rd. A brilliant pass. You very rarely see someone go around the outside of Hawthorne and Westfield and make it work. But Williams gains 2 places in 1 lap and spectacularly gets onto the podium.
Unbelievable move moments after I said that outside move up through Hawthorne was not doable. Williams heard me and said, yeah, watch this. Makes it stick around James Barry. That is the move of the race. Absolutely fantastic stuff, putting Williams up into 3rd. Barry's still hanging on, but Williams' attention now ahead. Havard Gullickson's got about a second and 7/10 ahead to Gullickson with about 8 laps remaining. Might be a big ask for him to catch up, but Williams put himself on the podium with that epic move.
Yeah, absolutely. That was fantastic, and you'd imagine, I think he'll be able to get away now. I don't think he'll catch Gullickson for 2nd, but I think he'll have the speed to see off James Barry now. Dennis Heinz Braun is next, then Dennis Kyriakopoulos. They're quite close. And then you've got Ryan Odo, who's going to look to regain those places. Did you think there was any contact on the way down there towards turn 3? I think it's hard to tell, really. It looked almost like netcode contact to me, actually, but I don't know. There might have been contact. Maybe it was just Odo running a bit wide and losing it, because when you're side by side with someone, the whole parameters, turning points, braking points, they all change, and so maybe that's what it was. But it did look like a car that had just been made contact with to me when Ryan Odo went off into the grass.
Yeah, very tough. It kind of looked like he washed out a little bit to me, but very hard to tell, as you say. And it's kind of funny. I remember playing Doom multiplayer across a modem when I was a kid, so it is a miracle that this is working. And I always kind of chuckle when I hear people complaining about netcode, but people all over the world right now competing out there at the highest possible level at Brands Hatch, and the racing could not be better.
It's fantastic to watch it up and down the field, as it is every week here. We're live every of the 12 weeks for an iRacing season with this championship. And on the way towards the fast right-hander of Hawthorne's again down the bottom of your screen there. That's Gonzaga, Woodward and Larson. Just calming down for the moment, and at the top of the screen, looks to me like Williams has got the measure of James Barry there.
Yeah, Williams pulling away his last lap, 2/10 ahead of Barry. That may have been while that pass was going on. It may not be a fair measure. Their fast laps very close to one another. Actually, well, it looks like Williams has got about a 10th on Barry, so definitely nothing to sneeze at. Williams, the newcomer, doing a great job out here, without a doubt. And you know who else is doing a great job, Ewan? Peter Ivani has absolutely driven away at the front here with some very, very talented drivers behind him. So Ivani putting the time in to master this very, very difficult course and to making it all count in this highest possible scoring slot here Friday 2100 GMT.
Indeed. 5 laps to go at the line. That's Kjetil Larsen at the bottom of your screen, getting really away from him there, the car on the way towards the Grand Prix layout, around the back of the circuit, really, if you like. Out through the trees, through the woods. As you said earlier, it wouldn't be built like that nowadays, but it's a historic racetrack. Has remained mostly the same in all that time, and is a great place to go racing. You've got the opportunities for overtaking in these cars, especially on the Indy layout, and then the entertaining part to drive, the Grand Prix part through the trees. Woodward without a great run there, as he got the penultimate corner. Sterling's a little bit wrong. Larson much closer now on the way towards turn number 1. Will he perhaps be able to make a move here? Not in towards turn 1. What about turn 2? Will he have a dive up the inside? Maybe. He's not close enough again. So a bit of a stalemate here. Larson has got to try and figure out a way to get past, because he knows, frustratingly, he knows he is quicker than these guys.
Yeah, George Gonzaga, the cork in the bottle, to be sure here. A huge gap from Gonzaga up to Ryan Odo in P7. And quick tip of the hat to Robert Woodward. And one of the joys of covering this series week in and week out is watching drivers develop. Woodward, one of those drivers who has developed, running deep into the top 10 as we watch Melvin Brandt take a ride through the kitty litter into the barrier. Yard sale of SR10 parts there. Brandt will be done for the day, but back to Woodward doing a really good job, slowly developing, running in the top 10 and holding off Larson for the time being, which is no small feat. Larson, very, very quick driver here, and I'd like to see Woodward take a crack at George here down the stretch. He still has some time, about 4 laps remaining.
He does, 4 at the line. He gets so close to the grass there on the outside line. Going through the final turn, if you just dip a wheel off, then you get pulled off very quickly towards the gravel and very quickly towards the wall as well. That was a look down the inside from Larson. Now he's got to get a good run down the hill here and a dive at the turn. But that, it seems to me, in the last couple of laps we've been following, that it seems to be the key point. The key moment where Larson's not quite gaining enough time on the way down the hill there after turn 1 towards the uphill braking zone at turn 2, which I know is not a very long braking zone in these cars. You're not coming from maximum speed. These cars are quite light and it's uphill, so there's a few things against you there. But if you can, I mean, guys like Jake Williams have shown, if you're fast through turn 1, you can get alongside, you can have a go at turn 2, but that to me seems to be the corner where Larson's just not perfecting it, just not getting these openings.
Yeah, too right. And that paddock hill bend at the end of the start-finish pit straight, very, very challenging. The car lightens up across the apex. You're going downhill with bad camber right when you're trying to put the power down. And in these turbocharged 4-cylinder SR10s, you see Woodward wiggle a little bit. That is going to let Larson through. And Woodward game there finally made the mistake that Kettle Larson was waiting for. That's going to put him up into P9. But as I was saying, just mastery of turn 1, a key to racing here at Brands Hatch. And you got to roll on the throttle very, very carefully coming over the crest right here, or it can turn into disaster so easily. And as you were saying, Ewan, critical to get a good run up the hill into Druids, and it all depends on your exit at turn 1.
It does. And if you can force a mistake at the driver in front, it all makes life a lot easier again. So that's what Larson would have been waiting for, and finally is up to 9th place. Has he got enough time to get past Gonzaga as well? I'm going to predict no, to be honest. The speed with which he got past Woodward there was not fast. I mean, I'm not sure how long this battle's been going on for, but I would suggest it's been going on almost since the very start of this race, when everybody piled off the racetrack through turn 3. Not sure that this battle's really changed since then. So at that sort of speed, Larson's got no chance of getting through. And in any case, even if he was making efficient progress, he's only got 2 laps from this point anyway, as even he goes over the line. 2 laps around here is barely 2.5 minutes. He has not got much time now, Larson, nor has anybody else, to make these overtakes.
Yeah, laps ticking by very, very quickly. And just taking a quick look at Larson versus Gonzaga's fast lap, George actually only less than a tenth slower than Kettle right now. So unless Kettle has a magic button to push right now down the stretch, I think George is going to hang on to that P8. Although, as I say that, look at Larson close down on him, going into that Druids corner, that gap dropping all the way down to about 3/10 right now. So Larson may yet have a crack at this, just as we were predicting that George was going to be comfortable in that P8. The pressure coming up from behind from Larson.
Yeah, it's not a comfortable place to be. But I think, based on what he's seen behind as well, I don't know how much attention he would have been paying to the battle between Woodward and Larson, as opposed to just focusing on keeping Woodward behind, which was obviously Gonzaga's job in this group. But if he had been paying attention, he'll know surely that just not making an error should be enough to keep him this place. But let's see if Larson can put the pressure on to force him into one. Through Dingledale they'll go. One of the most committed and unbelievable corners in Europe, I would suggest, not just the UK. And the white flag waves meantime around the corner. Gonzaga has clearly Larson in his mirrors, and clearly he's looking into them often as well. That's not a great run out the final turn, and Larson always seems to get better runs here onto the front stretch than everybody else, but it's turn one where he seems to be struggling. Now he brakes early, doesn't want to go around the outside, and Gonzaga makes the error. There we go, Larson's forced the error. Now he's going to go for it at turn two. He's not been in this scenario too often. Gonzaga still has the time to conserve the inside line, and Larson can't get past him, even with that mistake.
Yes, that just shows how tough Brands is. Larson had everything unfolding in front of him just how he wanted it. You see Gonzaga here going very defensive on this uphill left-hander, but even that big mistake, not enough to create space for Larson. And Larson feeling frustrated right now, that white flag waving in his mirror and time ticking down. Can Larson make this outside move happen here in Hawthorns? And not quite, as Gonzaga hangs on for another corner, but it is not over, Ewan.
It's not over. Meantime, Peter Even, he's going to take the second flag, and he's going to take the victory. Here comes Robert Woodward at the top of your screen. Oh, and he's going to go wide. Ketil Larsson's going to be denied the chance to get to 8th, and Woodward's going to be too wide to go on and get 9th. It's Even who takes the race victory in front of Gullickson and Williams, and the battle for 8th is settled. Dramatic circumstances, though, and through some of the fastest corners on this racetrack, these guys went side by side, playing for keeps on the last lap. In the end, Gonzaga holds on to 8th.
And Gonzaga owing Woodward a pint right there. His tussle with Larson knocked Larson out of that competition for P8. But once again, great racing up and down the grid here from the top split of the Radical Esports Cup here. Friday, 2100 GMT never disappoints. Brands Hatch never disappoints. And what a fantastic outing.
Absolutely fantastic from Brands Hatch here tonight. It's Peter Even who takes the victory by just over 4 seconds in front of Havik Gullickson. Jake Williams on the podium as well. James Barry ends up 4th in front of Heinz Braun, Dennis Kyriakopoulos and Ryan Odo rounding out that top 7 who really broke away on lap 1 there. George Gonzaga hanging on to 8th in dramatic style, as we saw Ketil Larson and Robert Woodward rounding off the top 10. Andreas Friedrich also got to the end there, which can also be said for Ole Henrik Gullickson and Pekki Caruso, but not Melvin Brandt, who was the only retirement from that race. And we'll just give the guys a couple more moments to join us in for an interview. But JL, that was a brilliant race. I've got to say, I always fear when I come to Brands Hatch that it's not going to be very exciting because it's difficult to overtake round here and it's all narrow and so on. But that was Exhibit A in what a great race looks like round here.
Yeah, absolute thriller. And these Radical SR10s, hand-built just a couple hours, as I said, away from Brands Hatch here in Kent in the UK. And you know that they have been tested out here. You know that they've been tested at tracks like Oulton Park, and they just seem so at home dealing with all the challenges out here. Bad camber, blind corners, and heavy commitment into some very, very difficult high-speed stuff that requires incredible amount of precision. And if you can imagine overslowing a Radical SR10, which is kind of hard to imagine, that is the main thing to avoid in a track like Brands Hatch, and that's what the front runners did here today. And great stuff as always.
Looks like perhaps only Havik Gullickson will join us, so we'll have a chat with him after tonight. Havik, welcome in. Good to have you with us, and a second place finish for you tonight. Talk us through that race for yourself. You managed to get past Jake Williams off the start and then consolidate from there. Was there more to it? Any more to it than that?
No, basically it was just to stay focused because this track is so treacherous. One small mistake and you're basically off the track. So I'm pretty hot, and Ivani, he was incredible. So I would need a rope or something to hang on to him, I think. Yeah, so congratulations to him for being the fastest by far.
You mentioned the lack of room for error around here, but tell us where the key points are on this circuit. The back half of the circuit, just from a spectator's point of view, it looks very fun to drive, but it looks like it's also got a lot of risk as well.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but many corners are like you have to stay on the edge, and the edge is the grass. So one small mistake, and yeah, it's really difficult. Problems with understeer, and understeer you have you go off. So it's really, really difficult. And I raced here about a year ago, and then everything was perfect, and I just floated around the track. But now I really had to focus and do my best. But I'm really happy that I could keep the other guys behind, and luckily for me, I think they fought a bit, so that was maybe what saved me. But when I saw Odo in my mirrors, I thought this is not going to hold, but luckily it did.
And just one last quick one before we let you go. Are we going to be seeing you on Sunday at the Radical Sim Racing European race? And what are you expecting from a slightly longer race on Sunday if you're there?
Yeah, I will be there. It will be twice as hard. But here I think the strategy will matter a lot, and fuel saving, because it's really hard to overtake on this track. So a good quali, try to, and find something magic strategy.
Well, good luck on Sunday. We look forward to seeing you there. But congrats on second place tonight, Havard, and thanks for chatting to us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, as always. Havard Gulliksen chatting to us. There's second place for him tonight. As we referenced there, the Radical Sim Racing European Championship is returning this weekend. You can catch that live on Racebot TV from 8 p.m. UK time, 9 p.m. Central European time, from Brands Hatch as well. But we'll be back in exactly 7 days' time on the iRacing and Racebot TV YouTube channels from the Hungaroring. It's a twisty part of the season, as I mentioned earlier, and it does not stop here. Hungaroring this week, next week, Laguna Seca the week after that. So some difficult weeks ahead for the Radical Esports Cup drivers. But we're at the halfway stage of the season now. Look forward to seeing whether Andre Castro will be back next week indeed, trying to take his 5th race win of the season, and whether some of the other guys, like Peter Evany tonight, can indeed challenge him if he is here. But that's just about it from us here tonight. This has been the Radical Esports Cup on the iRacing and Racebot TV YouTube channels. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside JR Gregory with Romeo Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras of this broadcast tonight. We'll be back at the Hungaroring in 7 days' time. Make sure you join us then. But from all of us until then, it's goodbye for now.